All right, so I'm going to do a question and answer about chapter 1 of the narrative of Frederick Douglass's life. It was written by himself, a book that he wrote about himself and his life. So this is, I went through chapter 1 and I asked some questions. I'm going to give you the answer. Number 1, this is based on what Frederick said in the chapter. Number 1, where was Frederick Douglass born? The answer, he was born in a place called Tuckahoe near Hillsborough in Talbot County, Maryland. Number 2, what was Frederick's birth date or age? According to Frederick in that chapter, he said that he had no accurate account of his age. He said slaves had about as much knowledge of their age as a horse would be able to tell you. And they weren't allowed to ask what their age was or when they were born. He says his best possible estimate is that he thinks he was born in 1835, and he was like 27 years old when he wrote this book. Number 3, what was his mother's name? His mother's name was Harriet Bailey. Number 4, what color was Frederick's father? His father was white. He did not know who his father was. He knew he was white, but it was a rumor on the plantation that his slave master was his father. But it never was like found out or to be true or anything like that. Also, his mother was black. He says his mother was really dark complected. Number 5, did he grow up with his mother? Did Frederick grow up with his mother? The answer is no. He was separated from his mother as an infant. He said this was a common practice in Maryland at that time, was that slave children were separated from their mothers at birth. He said he probably saw his mother 4 to 5 times in his whole life. Number 6, was Frederick able to see his mother while he was a slave? He said he would see his mother. He only remembers seeing his mother at night. She would sneak from her the plantation where she was at and come to his plantation at night and see him, and then she would be gone. He never saw her in the daytime. Question 7, which slaves did the slave master's wife dislike the most? According to Frederick, it was the biracial slaves, because the slave master's wives on plantations would suspect that their husbands were the fathers of these children. Number 8, what was the name of his first slave master? What was the name of Frederick's first slave master? His name was Anthony, and they called him Captain Anthony. Number 9, how many slaves did Frederick's slave owner own? He said he owned about 30 slaves. He had 3 or 4 different farms. Number 10, on the plantation that Frederick lived on, who was Mr. Plummer? Mr. Plummer was the overseer of the plantation, kind of like the manager, was in charge of making sure the slaves work, making sure they do what they're supposed to do. Number 11, what was Mr. Plummer like? The overseer, Mr. Plummer, according to Frederick, he was a drunk. He had a very, very bad mouth. He called him a profane swear. He acted like a savage monster. He enjoyed punishing slaves. Very cruel. Seems like he got pleasure out of whipping slaves. The more they screamed, the more he did it. Number 12. Why did his Aunt Hester get punished in the chapter? So according to Frederick, his Aunt Hester was really pretty black woman. And the slave master, of course, they had sexual relations with some of the slaves. He was taking her as his, whenever he decided he wanted to be with her, he would. But he had told her, don't ever let me find you in the presence of another man or a slave. Yeah, a black male. It was also one that she kind of liked, that he said, if I ever catch you around her, I think his name was Ned. He was from another plantation. He was a young slave, and she liked him. But he had instructed her that if he ever saw them together, he would punish her severely. And I guess one day or one night when he desired her presence, as Frederick said, she was nowhere to be found. And he found out that she was in the presence of this slave named Ned. And Frederick says he took her into and tied her up, took all her clothes off, tied her up, called her a lot of bad names. And he said he whipped her really bad, for hours, till like blood was running down her back. As she screamed, he whipped her more and more. So that's a question and answer about Chapter 1, the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass. Leave me some comments. I hope this helps you. Thanks.